This week on Aussie JetSetter, we're flying on America's worst airline, if it's anything to go by from JD Power Analytics' most recent 2024 North American Airline Satisfaction Study. We're flying Colorado-based Frontier Airlines, one of America's 5 ultra-low-cost airlines, which really push the limits of the bare bones flying experience, bringing the prospect of an insanely cheap seat on a plane, all while being nickeled and dimed for absolutely everything else. But what if we bought this airline's most expensive ticket at a cost of almost 3 times that of its most basic fare? Would it provide a radical transformation of the Frontier flying experience, and would it be worth the extra cost? So without further ado, come join me as we find out, flying on one of the most scenic flights in the whole of the United States between sunny San Diego, California and the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to beautiful Imperial Beach here in lovely, albeit unusually chilly, Southern California. Imperial Beach is an iconic beachside city within the greater San Diego region, about 14 miles south of San Diego city centre, and very interestingly, right behind me, about 5 miles to the south of me, is the international border with Mexico and the border city of Tijuana. Anyway, we've had a great time here in San Diego, spent a couple days here, very quick visit. Yesterday we did a great big walking tour all around beautiful maritime city that is San Diego. And yeah, today we got out on the San Diego trolley, otherwise known as their tramway system. Went all the way out to the southern border, checked out some of the border communities, which was really cool experience. Didn't have the time to go into Mexico on this occasion, but maybe on a future visit. Also checked out some of the stunning beaches of Southern California, such as Imperial Beach, where we are now. Anyway, first thing tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn, going to be going to the San Diego International Airport, which is conveniently only a couple kilometres from where I'm staying in the heart of Little Italy, a very interesting district of San Diego. We're going to be flying on Colorado-based ultra low-cost airline Frontier Airlines, all the way from here in San Diego to the mile-high city, otherwise known as Denver. Really looking forward to this flight, really looking forward to what the ultra low-cost experience is like on an airline such as Frontier, and really looking forward to what should be some amazing views as we fly out over to the Rocky Mountains region of the USA. Prior to this trip, didn't really know a huge amount about some of the more less traditional non-legacy US domestic carriers. So yeah, don't know too much about Frontier other than that they're an ultra low cost airline, which is an airline type I don't think I've even tried before. All I know is they have some of the cheapest flights in the skies within the United States with absolutely nothing included at the base fare. So without further ado, come join me as we head to the San Diego International Airport first thing in the morning, for what should be a good insight into what the ultra low cost airline experience is like in the US, and ultimately hopefully a very enjoyable flight up to the mile high city tomorrow. So let's do this. Anyway, before we head to the airport, let's have a look at the route information for flight F94928 over to Denver tomorrow. Great circle distance on this one is 1,372 kilometers. Gazetted flight time is 2 hours and 31 minutes. They do it to the exact minute here in the USA. Well, actual flight time today is only going to be 1 hour and 54 minutes. Scenery wise, this is certainly a flight to pick a window seat for. Takes off in Southern California, passing the beautiful Joshua Tree National Park, before we then move over into Arizona, passing just south of the massive Grand Canyon National Park, then briefly move into Utah, before we then descend through the southern Colorado Rocky Mountains into Denver. For your information, San Diego International Airport is conveniently located only about 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers northwest of downtown San Diego. According to the latest statistics, San Diego International Airport is currently the 25th busiest airport in the whole of the United States, 3rd busiest in California after San Francisco and of course Los Angeles LAX down the road. With record passenger movements last year totaling 25.2 million, San Diego actually has the distinction of the busiest single runway airport in the whole of the United States. With its sole runway 09/27 managing a staggering 227,594 aircraft movements. San Diego has two main airport terminals, Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. We're flying out of the former this morning, where Frontier can be found on the left hand side of the check-in area located next to Sun Country Airlines. Anyway, on to check-in. I recall the whole experience here at San Diego to be surprisingly easy. Was expecting it to be a little bit more hassle-some flying an ultra low-cost airline such as Frontier. Largely a self-service affair, self-service check-in kiosk where you can also print off your bag tag. Interestingly enough, through these kiosks and elsewhere through signage in the airport, you do get relentlessly reminded how Frontier may not have the inclusions that you expect. For example, if you're on a basic fare, you don't even have a full-size carry-on bag included. Most fare bundles don't even have checked luggage included either, except for the business bundle which I'm on today, so they very much try to upsell that through the app before you get to the gate where you'll be charged a lot more. I don't have to worry about any of this upselling however, because I'm flying on the business bundle today, which includes 2 free bags, complimentary seat selection including free upfront seats with the extra legroom and the middle seat blocked, and also quite a lot of extra booking flexibility thrown in. Did recall visiting a semi-self-assisted bag drop counter however to drop off my bag. It's very easy this morning as the airport was very quiet, only took a few moments. Just take note, if you do have included bags or you have purchased a bag with Frontier, the weight limits are a little bit lower than some airlines, coming in at just 40 pounds. Which is a little bit lower than conventional baggage allowances on a lot of airlines, which are typically 20 or 23 kilos, or increasingly even 30 kilos on international legacy carriers. Anyway, with check-in complete, I was then on to TSA security. Security is obviously a lot more involved and intensive here in the United States than compared to elsewhere in the world. But yeah, San Diego is really a pleasant airport, especially at this time of morning. Really actually quite quiet. And yeah, TSA only took about 5 minutes or so to get through, so absolutely no complaints. And yeah, the personnel were really friendly and professional, so no complaints there. Anyway, on to our ride up to the Mile High City this morning. We're flying on November 722 Foxtrot Romeo. It's an Airbus A321-200, so regular A321, first delivered direct to Frontier Airlines in November 2018, putting this aircraft at just over 6 years of age at time of flight. Interestingly enough, every single one of Frontier's 161 aircraft have a special tail livery with a different endangered wild animal. Today we're flying on Xavier the mountain goat. Apparently the airline launched its initiative upon its inception back in 1994, part of its commitment to being its self-proclaimed greenest airline in the US, and a part of its efforts to promote wildlife and environmental conservation. Aside from our flight, it's a pretty quiet time of morning here, just after 5 AM at San Diego Airport. The departure port is really dominated by Southwest Airlines. Only other airlines really making a mention are a Frontier flight to Denver and a Spirit Airlines flight to Las Vegas. Which really makes me wonder if you got the budget for Sin City if flying on Spirit. Anyway, on to boarding. With the business bundle, I do have some sort of priority boarding today. Do note, however, there is Zone 1 boarding and then Zone 2 to 5 boarding. Ahead of Zone 1 boarding, there's also Board First boarding. Not actually sure which entitlement this ticket got me, but yeah, a long story short, Zone 1 and Board First boarding is a neat little way for the airline to Segregate passengers based on the entitlement or lack thereof of carry-on baggage. So if you think you're going to sneak on a Frontier flight with a carry-on bag unentitled, you're probably going to get stung at the gate with a hefty fee. But without further ado, welcome aboard Frontier's A321. Total of 230 seats on this aircraft in a standard all economy class free configuration. We're up the front in the up front plus seating, which is 3 rows with the guaranteed middle seat free. Here you got the extra legroom, 36 to 38 inches according to Seat Guru. At the back it's a much tighter 30 to 32 inches. Aside from the extra legroom, it's still the same black leather seating, not the most comfortable to be honest. Got a standard fold back tray table with your in-flight literature consisting of the very overpriced in-flight menu and also the in-flight safety demo card. Do note, Frontier are planning to launch an American-style domestic first class in late 2025, which will probably bring more comfortable seating, perhaps at the expense of the vacant middle seat.
Step into your row at your aisle, you find your assigned seat. Your assigned seat is printed on your boarding pass. ABC is on your right, EES is on your left. Please lift your roller bags and overhead bins with the wheels and the handle facing towards the aisle so it fits properly any small bags that you may have under your seat.
Turn off, please stop the cell phone, share their game airplane mode, flight attendant turn us for departure.
Anyway, without further ado, what better time now to enjoy our very busy early morning congested taxi out to runway 27, busiest single runway here in the United States, and enjoy our beautiful takeoff out of San Diego this morning. Once in the air, I'll then give my thoughts on what you can expect on board with Frontier. like that, after a beautiful early morning sunrise takeoff out of San Diego, we're now well and truly on our way to cruising altitude of 39,000 feet. Anyway, as I alluded to before, this must have to be one of the most scenic commercial flights you can take in the whole of the United States. Really get to see some of the most spectacular geographic features of the southwest of the United States. So yeah, we're now approaching the Joshua Tree National Park. A little bit later in the flight, we're then going to be passing into Arizona, passing just south of the absolutely spectacular Grand Canyon National Park, which I had the pleasure of visiting back in 2017. Then continue through the varying changing landscapes of the desert and the snowy mountains, as we then continue briefly into Utah before we then continue over the southern reaches of the Colorado mountains into Denver. So definitely recommend getting a left-hand window seat on this flight. Depending on the routing, you do have a good chance of seeing many of the United States Southwest's most spectacular national parks. Whether it's the snow-capped mountains of Southern California, the spectacular Grand Canyon and Glen Canyon national parks of Arizona, or the beautiful Rocky Mountain plains of Colorado, you really can see it all on this flight. So as you can expect on an ultra low cost airline such as Frontier, there's absolutely no in-flight entertainment provided, nor any Wi-Fi or anything like that. But with such spectacular scenery outside, the real entertainment is literally out the window. That being said, if you didn't have such a scenic flight, you may wish to load up your own device with some pre-downloaded documentaries or movies, like I usually do from YouTube Premium ahead of each international trip I do. As we speak, I believe we're now flying over the Little Colorado River, which is a tributary of the larger Colorado River, and is indeed one of the largest arms of the spectacular Grand Canyon. Please do chime in the comments below what other key impressive geographical features you see in the video. Really would appreciate it. Anyway, before we have a look at the food and beverage service offered on this flight, even despite being on the business bundle, of which I get absolutely nothing included, let's now have a look at the front lavatory on the A321 with Frontier. So welcome to Frontier's A321 lavatory. Not much to report here apart from that it's very much a stock standard aircraft bathroom. Kept in reasonably good nick, however, definitely clean and well kept, so no complaints. Got a baby change table as well, and all the basic amenities you would need. Anyway, onto the seat itself, very hard leather seat, very much like sitting on a bus bench, not very comfortable at all. Do believe they do recline, however, in row 1 to 3. Didn't actually test the feature. Low in the back of the bus, there is no recline. Onto the buy on board menu, as you'd expect, pretty well nothing is included on Frontier. Everything comes from the buy on board menu. Not sure if they give you free water if you ask, but yeah, wouldn't bank on it to be honest. So yeah, buy on board menu has a fairly okay range of soft drinks, alcoholic beverages, hot beverages, also some basic snacks, lollies, all that sort of stuff as well. Very, very expensive and overpriced, however, especially some of the alcoholic drinks. By the time you convert it into Australian dollars, you're looking at $16, $17, $18, maybe even more by the time you add hidden taxes and all that sort of stuff. Despite the crazy prices, I did proceed to get a coffee. Pretty well instant coffee for US dollars, $6.50 Australian. You don't even get real milk, you get creamer as you always do in America. So not a very good cup of coffee. At least you do get a free refill, however. So yeah, I got 2 cups of coffee, I guess, for $6.50. So objectively speaking, with prices on Frontier probably being 30 to 40% more expensive than Australian airlines such as Virgin and Jetstar, this really is an ultra low cost airline you're probably not worth spending your money on board with. Aside from that and the absolutely spectacular scenery outside, not much more to report about the rest of the flight. It's been a surprisingly quite pleasant flight this morning. Hard to really complain about the experience that I'm getting. Certainly no rude shocks either, as I researched the whole experience ahead of time. I think paying for the business bundle has really worked for me today. 149 US dollars, so about 236 Australian dollars, considering I would have had to already add on extra for luggage, and I would have also needed to pick a seat to get a window seat for such a spectacular flight. Despite the uncomfortable seat itself, the legroom is really good up here in up front plus seating. Also having the middle seat free, or indeed my case today the whole row free, really does give me a sense of space and privacy up here in the front of the aircraft, so really quite enjoying it. Anyway, we're almost about to start our descent into the Mile High City, otherwise known as Denver. Still plenty of spectacular scenery out there as we descend in over the southern reaches of Colorado's Rocky Mountains. So without further ado, enjoy our extended descent into Denver this morning. Then once on the ground, I'll give my final thoughts and verdict about today's Frontier experience. And just like that, welcome to the beautiful Mile High city of Denver. First time ever visiting Denver, really pleased to be here. It's about a chilly -2 degrees Celsius outside, which I guess for Denver conditions in the middle of winter is somewhere in the middle of the two extremes of weather that you can get. A few days earlier it was -20, later in the week it's actually pushing +20 degrees Celsius. So the way it swings from super cold to quite mild all in the space of a week is quite incredible up here in Colorado. Now it's time to face absolutely gigantic size airport that is Denver International, which interestingly enough, despite Denver unassumingly only being the 19th largest city in the United States, Denver holds a number of claims to fame as one of the world's biggest and busiest airports. Firstly, occupying an absolutely incredible 33,531 acres or a whopping 135.7 square kilometers makes Denver the largest airport by size in the Western Hemisphere and the second largest on Earth. It's runway 16 right/34 left with a length of over 16,000 feet or 4.88 kilometers is the longest public use runway also in North America and the 7th longest on Earth. Spanning its incredible 6 runways, of which all are capable of handling some of the world's largest aircraft, the passenger statistics for Denver are truly staggering. According to the latest statistics in 2024, a whopping 82 million plus people passed through the terminal for over 694,000 aircraft operations, and over 333,000 tons of cargo were also processed through the airport. Services over 25 different airlines offering non-stop services to over 215 destinations throughout the Americas, Europe and Asia. Whilst rankings of the world's busiest airports do tend to vary due to a number of factors and considerations, generally speaking, Denver International Airport is currently considered to be the 6th busiest airport in the whole world and 3rd busiest in the whole of the United States. Previously, it is believed to have reached position number 3 as top busiest airport in the world. Something absolutely staggering and quite hard to comprehend due to Denver's geographical location in the United States and relatively small population compared to other cities that make the top 10 list. So if you're perhaps from the United States or familiar with Colorado and Denver Airport, really appreciate if you let us know down in the comments below just some of the history of Denver Airport and how it came to be such a mega airport that it is today. Anyway, let's now head to the interterminal train where we'll get the train over to Denver's dedicated baggage claim terminal, pick up our bags, get on the train to downtown Denver Union Station, which is approximately 40 kilometers to the southwest of here, where we'll wrap up today's flight with Frontier. And just like that, folks, welcome to the equally spectacular and historic Denver, Colorado, otherwise famously known as the Mile High City due to its impressive high altitude geography that puts it at exactly 1 mile above sea level. Or for us folks from Australia who use the metric system, that's 1,609 meters above sea level. Right behind me we've got 2 very impressive sights, obviously the downtown Denver skyline on this typically very cold but otherwise clear winter's day here in the middle of January, only a couple of degrees above freezing. Impressively as well, we've also got Empower Field at Mile High, home to the mighty Denver Broncos in the NFL. Very beautiful looking stadium, has a capacity of just over 76,000 people. Anyway, onto the flight itself with Frontier Airlines today. It's best I break it up into 2 different parts. In terms of the scenery, it's one of the most memorable flights I've ever taken in my whole lifetime. The scenery on the route between San Diego and Denver has to be one of the most scenic flights that you can take in the United States. We take off from the relatively mild Southern California coastal region of San Diego, and within minutes of takeoff, we're flying over huge mountain ranges, beautiful scenery over the high elevations of California, Arizona, and of course the Rockies. We may even have flown close to the Grand Canyon National Park and some of the other famous national parks in the US of A as well. So yeah, the scenery is absolutely breathtaking. Today it was pretty well clear skies most of the journey, absolutely spectacular scenery. The landing into Denver as well was absolutely spectacular. So yeah, recommend taking the flight just to enjoy the spectacular scenery. But onto the Frontier Airlines experience itself, didn't really expect much coming into the flight today. Being an ultra low cost airline, first time ever trying a so-called ultra low cost airline. And yeah, overall the flight itself was pretty unremarkable. That's not to say there was actually anything bad about today's experience. Really, you get for what you pay for sort of experience. I think Frontier can be a good way to fly in America if you just want to get very cheaply from A to B, but yeah, not too worried about any added inclusions. But yeah, I had the upfront plus seating ticket today. So yeah, definitely did get a lot more legroom, which is much appreciated. Did end up having the whole row to myself, which was really good. One of those flights was only really about half full. So yeah, probably didn't really need upfront seating. Probably would have got a row to myself out the back anyway. But yeah, if it was a full flight, I would have at least had that guaranteed middle seat, which certainly would have helped. But yeah, apart from that, the seat itself is not very comfortable, a very hard seat. But yeah, the legroom was good. And aside from that, nothing really else on board. Everything's buy on board in terms of food and beverage, and it's very expensive. It's like $10 US plus tax for a Bud Light, for example, which probably works out 17, 18 Australian dollars. Even the coffee I had was $4 US plus tax, which is probably 7, 8 Australian dollars. At least I got a free refill, however. No entertainment, no nothing else on Frontier. That being said, the crew on today's service seemed to be pretty friendly, pretty laid back, and seemed to enjoy being at work, so that was good to see. And yeah, the flight was punctual, left on time, arrived well ahead of time. So yeah, overall no complaints about Frontier on my first ever experience with them. I kind of got the best ticket package that you can get. It's 149 US dollars. So pretty old, got all the inclusions that you can possibly get. Yeah, I still think it was pretty good value, so no complaints. But yeah, if you just want to get on the plane and go from San Diego to Denver and have no carry-on bag or anything like that, it would only cost 64 US dollars, which is significantly cheaper than the other carriers on the route. But all in all, no complaints about Frontier today. Obviously my first experience flying with them, so probably need to fly a few more times to really get a full understanding of what they're like. But yeah, just be aware of what you're getting yourself into when flying Frontier, because you get what you pay for. So yeah, just research what the experience will be like beforehand, so there's no rude shocks. Anyway, if you have enjoyed the review on Frontier today, I know I certainly have. Been a very spectacular flight, especially scenery wise today. Really appreciate it if you could just give it a like, leave your comments down below, maybe share amongst your family and friends. And of course, if you haven't already and you do enjoy my content, where it brings you to the channel, really appreciate if you just take the moment to consider subscribing to the channel. Really would appreciate that. And if you have already subscribed and you do watch my content, thanks so much once again for your ongoing support. Couldn't do it all without you. In the meantime, you may also wish to visit my website, aussiejetsetter.com.au, for latest flight reviews, interesting news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks and more. Maybe even check out my dedicated Instagram page, catch up with what I'm doing around the world in real time. Maybe even check out my dedicated Aussie JetSetter Discord server, catch up with fellow fans and community of the channel to discuss all things aviation and travel. But from here in beautiful Denver, Colorado, thanks so much for watching today's flight review, and until next one, safe travels, wherever that might take you.